So there are certain people that they want a large crowd.
Yeah.
Please welcome, most sales for this month,
Yep.
Bobby Ray. And Bobby Ray's like, yeah, yeah, the crowd's cheering, right? He wants to crowd surf, maybe give a little speech. If I may thank a few people that got me here and let
Yeah.
me
Yep.
tell you how
Yep.
I
Yep.
did it. And then you bring the next guy up, welcome Willie. Willie, yeah, come on up. Right? And so Willie accepts the award a little more humbly. And then after it's all settled down, Willie goes up to the manager and says, if you ever do that to me again, I will quit.
Yeah, right.
Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Ramsey!
Oh, Marshall, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic.
That's good because I just asked you like literally 30 minutes ago when we recorded the earlier episode today. Got 2 in the can today.
Woohoo!
Sorry, I had to break the magic spell. I didn't want anybody to think that, every week we do this.
Yes, I think they call that, breaking the fourth wall.
Something like that.
Where we speak directly to the audience instead of the camera. No, it's a beautiful day. It's the heat broke, so we had that heat spell, and then it's cooled off, and I went running yesterday and done that for a while, so
Yep.
that was fantastic. And I hear we have a running story that you've brought to share with all our listeners, both of them.
That's exactly right.
Very excited.
That's exactly right. Before the heat broke, on the north side of the Kentucky River, my kids had their first cross-country meet of the season. So for the uninitiated, they basically do usually elementary boys, elementary girls, middle school boys, middle school girls, high school boys, high school girls. They'll do 6 races. Sometimes they combine the genders for one of the age groups or what have you, but basically they just get a wad of kids in a field. They've mapped out some sort of path through the woods. They fire a starting gun or blow a whistle, and these kids just start running. And then I don't know, maybe 15 minutes later the leaders start to come through, and they go through a chute like you see in a marathon or whatever, where they just start, they're done with the race and they have to just keep walking so that they don't pass out, and get a little something to drink or whatever. And then over the next 30 minutes, the rest of the gang, sort of stragglers and everybody else come in, and it's just the funnest thing to watch because everybody's just cheering on, wanting each of these kids to, keep going and do their best and so on and so forth. So all 4 of my kids are cross-country runners. And I'm going to preface this story, Mike, by saying that earlier this year, this daughter was on the starting block at a swim meet and loves to swim, loves cross-country, loves being on the team, loves cheering people on. She loves the whole thing. But I happened to be the volunteer timer for her lane on the swim meet. And I said, all right, swim as hard as you can. And she genuinely looked at me with curiosity and said, why would I do that? So this is not a competitive kid. I'm just gonna go ahead and state that for the record, okay?
Yeah.
So
your advice is nonsensical to me.
It was not helping her in the least.
Doesn't compute. Yeah.
She likes to swim. She likes to run, but no need to get crazy here, right? Let's just go out and enjoy the race. So that is the situation we found ourselves in at the start of this story. So, you try to run around to the different legs of where you can see the kids and, cheer them on. And then you run to the next place where you can see them and cheer them on. So I knew that she was behind her teammates. Here she comes, and she said, my knee's kind of hurting. I was like, oh, okay, well, listen, just keep it moving. Don't do anything crazy, but just keep moving. You're doing great. Just keep it up. And then I went to the final place. This is where I'm going to see her come around the bend, and then it's basically just a straight shot. Try to sprint when you feel like you can do it to the finish line. And I'm standing there, and it's going longer and longer. Like, where is she? And I'm starting to see kids that I saw around her come through. And where is she? Where is she? I hope she's okay. And I'm ready to just sort of, trot alongside her and encourage her for that final leg, right? And I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And then all of a sudden, I hear this woman yelling. And then around the corner comes one of the newer cross country moms. She's got kids on the team this year. Now these people are awesome. Okay, this is a really cool family. Dad is an officer in the Rangers. He is a serious, very competitive guy. You can just tell by his nature. His wife is so fun. They're just a great couple. And this lady is helping my daughter. She is not dressed for the track, and she is running alongside my daughter. Keep it up, girl. You're doing great. You're doing great. She is running the whole final leg with my daughter, to the point that some other runners had to come over and say, you got to stop running with her. She'll get disqualified if you're pacing her. And so she finally had to back off. But by this point, I can see the look on my daughter's face. She is done. The gas is out of the tank, and she is just, and finally makes it over the finish line. We walk up the hill together. It's like, how's your knee? It's okay. It's okay. And she makes it to Mom and then bursts into tears. I couldn't breathe. She keeps saying it over and over again. I couldn't breathe. And then all the other moms come over. Oh, honey, are you okay? Blah, 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 blah. And I can see she's starting to get, kind of worked up. And so I grabbed her shoulder. I said, hey, let's you and me go for a walk. Because I kind of know how she is, And so I take her for a walk. And the first thing she says to me is, thank you. Thanks. Thank you. And that's kind of the end of the story, except that it made me realize a couple conclusions. The first is that my daughter was thanking me for taking her away from the crowd. She had no interest in a bunch of relationships and being around a bunch of other people at that moment, right? And the second thing is, this is the first time in her life she had exercised so hard that she can't breathe. She's been on the team for 3 or 4 years, but this woman, in all of her great intentions, was getting her pushed to a level that for the first time in her life, she maybe exerted herself beyond, hey, I'm enjoying running. So I learned a whole lot about my daughter's personality in the course of a final leg of a race. She is not competitive, and she is not super people oriented.
Mm-hmm.
This, I believe, is what is called C in the DISC system. Would you agree with that?
Oh, it definitely sounds like it. Right, you got your D, your I, your S, and your C.
Right.
And the C tends to be a little more cautious, more deliberate pace, not as people focused.
Yep.
And they kind of do their own thing in their own time. And so, yeah, this sounds very much like the attributes of that particular behavioral style. And God bless the people all around you who were trying to support.
Yeah.
Right, where they were trying to help and encourage. Right, this woman, picturing this woman and not running shoes, running beside
right.
This little girl and encouraging her. And it when we talk about this in the workplace, we talk about, we always tell the managers, you're not leading a room full of you.
Right.
And sometimes we ask the question, how awesome would it be if everybody on the team that you led was just like you?
Right.
And then initially they go, oh, that'd be great. Yeah. And then they think about it like, no, a room full of me? Whew, no, that's, one of me, perfect.
Yeah.
A room full of me, a team of me, not good. So all of these people were acting in their behavioral style.
Yeah. This is what would work for me to motivate me.
This is what I would find incredibly helpful. If some well-meaning person would jump out of the crowd and encourage me along the way in a very loud and vocal and
Yep.
visible way.
Yep.
If an entire group of people rallied around me, I would love that.
Right.
That would be the best. Dear Diary, best day ever.
Right.
Entire crowd of moms was supporting me at the race. But it all assumes a rule, which is a good rule.
Mm-hmm.
The golden rule, right? You do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yep.
The golden rule, there may be a more nuanced way to look at that, which is the Disney rule, which is, do unto others as they prefer to be done.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
what would be the most beneficial thing to do for that person, even if it's the opposite of what you would like to see in that situation?
Yeah, I've heard that called the platinum rule.
Yes.
That it's just a little more valuable because it's causing me to take enough time to say, let me think about this person. If I really cared for them, what would they want in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great way to look at it. And, again, I think my daughter actually is extremely grateful for all of that support. It's just not the behavior that she was interested in participating in, right? That's not her preferred way. She does want to sit off and read books all day. That would be a great day for her. She'd like to do it with her friends even. But maybe we could just sit and read books together, or do art or something like that. She loves cross country. She loves swimming, but not for the competitive reasons, right? So, and for anyone who's brand new to DISC, I guess we should sort of say that there's sort of a quick way to think about it. If you think about a northwest and let me try that again, north south and east west chart. On the north is people who are action oriented. On the south are people who are a little more thoughtful oriented in their approach. And the active people, maybe are more competitive and dynamic and so on. And the thoughtful people are a little more moderate paced, right? A little more cautious, like you said. East and west, you've got the people oriented folks and the folks that are maybe more task oriented or more logic oriented, you might say. And so when we'll link to some material for this in the show notes, but basically if you can plot yourself on that, I'm fast or slow, or I'm people oriented or task oriented, you probably put yourself into a D, an I, an S, or a C. And like I said, I think I found that my daughter is not interested in competition. She's more interested in structure and a moderate pace. That would be, the South. And people, she loves people and she cares for people, but she's a little more task, logic, truth oriented. And so she's over on the West Coast on that. And so that makes her, you put those two together and it makes her a C. But she does all the other things, right? Like that's the fun part of DISC is we all do D behaviors and I behaviors and S behaviors and C behaviors. You just naturally prefer the one. I think it's fair to say my daughter would not have run as fast a race as she did if it hadn't been for the help of this mom. My daughter maybe even discovered and unlocked some level of exertion that she can now apply to future practices and races, right? Like, oh, I can run that fast. I can do it. And she's gotten tougher and harder. So nothing wrong with anything that just happened. But we also know that she's got a natural preference for a moderate pace and being a little more task oriented than people oriented. Mm-hmm. That's a great way to think about your employees, right? To think through, where are my people? And not that we're not going to use all of the 4 different behaviors, but what's their preference and how could I lean into that and tailor their experience here in a way that really makes them able to thrive.
Oh yeah. Well, a specific example of that is we talk about the love languages, and in the workplace, it's the languages of appreciation. Yep. And so one of them is praise. But within praise, they make a very, it's one of the few that they make a distinction, right? There's private and public praise.
Yep.
And so there are certain people that they want a large crowd.
Yeah.
Please welcome, most sales for this month. Bobby Ray. And Bobby Ray's like, yeah, the crowd's cheering, right? He wants to crowd surf. maybe give a little speech. If I may thank a few people that got me here, and let me tell you how I did it. And then you bring the next guy up, welcome Willie. Willie, yeah, come on up. Right? And so Willie accepts the award a little more humbly. And then after it's all settled down, Willie goes up to the manager and says, if you ever do that to me again, I will quit.
Yeah, right.
And the manager who is a public praise person is going, what are you talking about? That was awesome. They were cheering your name. And the guy's like, no, I'd much rather you come over to me in my workspace, my office, and just say, hey, you did a great job, and I appreciate that, and let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
So we tend to recognize people in the manner in which we would like to be recognized.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool when you're trying to figure out what the other person would prefer. All you got to do is watch what they do. Mm-hmm. So if they want to thank people in front of large groups, they're probably somebody who wants to be thanked in front of a large group as well.
Yep.
If they're more private with their praise, and then you can extrapolate that to everything. So whatever people are doing is probably the manner in which they would prefer it be done to them.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. And this bubbles over to customer relationships as well. You can sort of make a guess as to what would be the best way to appreciate this customer for their business, or what's the best way to approach them with your sales presentation or what have you. There's ways to tailor this to what would be best for them. And I recently had a client actually talking about how by industry there are some sort of disc defaults at the industry level. And I think in the car business, it's probably D, in most cases on the front end. On the back end in service and parts, maybe actually more C. But anyway, I was talking with a sales rep who she was assigned military customers and agricultural customers. And she said very different. If you were just going to have to make a blind pass at somebody and make a guess about how to approach them, you could make a guess on DISC for military versus agricultural being very different. And she had sort of a standard way of approaching them. How much more rich does it become when you do that customized to the actual person that you're interacting with, the actual potential client or what have you? So yeah, there's a lot of, this is, you and I were talking, we haven't talked about DISC on the podcast really yet. And there's just a lot of good stuff to mine here that helps in a lot of ways, personally, professionally, internally, externally.
Oh yeah. Oh, most definitely. Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking about the dealership in, I believe it's Huntsville, Alabama. And their two primary customers, that's it's a very rural area. And it's also home to the Marshall Space Center. No relation.
Yeah.
And so as you watch these people come into the service drive to get their vehicles worked on, every advisor knows that at any given point, either a farmer or a rocket scientist is going to step out of the vehicle, and they got to be ready for either one, right? I've got these guys. Yep. Good old boys want to talk, and then I've got these literally rocket scientists who want to know what's going on and want to know the specifics and things like that. And so you watched all day long as these guys put on the hat that was necessary to communicate most effectively with the audience before them.
I had never thought about that, and I'm not going to say his name, but I know a literal NASA rocket scientist, and I think he might be a customer of that dealership. I'm gonna have to find out, but I just in case he's listening, I just want to say, Meme Daddy, thank you for your service. I call him Meme Daddy because he posts literally the best memes on the planet. He's just, consistently day after day, the best memes.
Well, I'm sure he's very methodical about it.
Oh, I think so.
Oh, definitely.
Anyway,
so a lot of good stuff here, and yeah, kind of an entry to maybe something we'll dive into a little bit deeper here.
Yeah.
but yeah, just pay attention. Know that you're not leading a room full of you, and whatever your preferred system is may not be the preferred system of recognition, feedback, contests, challenges, right? All these different things that we approach people with. Just know that yeah, let's watch what they do, and that's probably the method that would be most impactful if I approached them in that style.
It is funny how far you get when you pay attention to the people around you and try to care and approach them in that way that you've noticed. So
Mhm.
we think that this is just a game changer for people.
Oh yeah. Well, it's interesting because if you do it right, they will never know.
Yeah.
They'll just know I click with that guy. That guy gets me.
Yeah.
We just seem to get along well, right? We communicate great. I
Yep.
just feel comfortable working with them, right? They'll come up with like all these feeling words, but they'll never know that yeah, this was the science behind how that feeling was created.
Well said. Well said. Well, anyway, thanks for letting me tell that story. And I kept my daughter anonymous, and hopefully she never discovers this episode when she's old enough to give a rip.
Well, if she's a daughter, she's probably at some point not going to listen to you ever, anyway. So whether in person or on video, yeah, all you'll get is, "Oh, Dad, yeah. Honey, would you like to listen to one of my podcasts?" "Oh, Dad." Yeah.
I can tell you my sons feel that way when I sing. They shut it down immediately.
Oh,
That's already happened.
Yeah. "Oh, Dad. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. No, Dad, you please stop. Yeah, Dad, not good, Dad." Yeah. So yeah, but it's at some point later on. Yeah. And by then, she'll be old enough not to be embarrassed.
That's right.
Yeah.
All
We'll
right.
be past all that. Good stuff. Thank you for sharing. Really good stuff. And let's turn it over to a man who, marches to his own drum, Mr. Wolf.
So go ahead and tweet that, or share it any other way you want. As always, there are no rights reserved, no trademarks, no copyrights. Share it if you want to. And join us next time on It Doesn't Take a Genius.
That's good enough.